Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're back in War Thunder looking at the Breda Ba.65 K14. This is the other devblog which was released today. I will eventually get round to the T-55A, but they just keep releasing devblogs of these Italian aircraft and some other stuff, such as the Puma. So let's get into it. The Ba.65 will join the ranks of the Italian tech tree as the K14 variant fitted with the Type L 7.7mm Breda Safat turret. This version's standout feature was an open gunner turret which offered better visibility and comfort for the gunner, but less protection. The pilot, on the other hand, will have 4 wing-mounted machine guns at his disposal to engage both aerial and ground targets at his leisure. Besides that, the aircraft is also capable of carrying up to 1,000 kilograms of payload distributed between external pylons and the internal bomb bay. So that all sounds great. The reason why they picked the K14 variant is because it has a turret on it. When I was actually doing a lot of research into this plane, because it looked kind of interesting about a year ago, I thought it would be a great Tier 1 aircraft. I never found the variant which actually had the turret on it, and the K14 variant is the one which does. Now, the reason why this is important in game is because this thing is going to be used as, obviously, some kind of light bomber, ground attacker, and without large caliber guns, it needs some kind of defensive armament in its back. So, putting in the K14 variant, I'm completely fine with that, because it gives this thing at least some defensive armament against planes which are definitely going to outturn it and be faster than it. The Ba.65 will form the base on which the future Italian attacker line will build up and will be one of the first vehicles our players will be able to research. So this is definitely going to be a Tier 1 vehicle. If I was going to hazard a guess, I would probably put it at 1.7, because the reason is, this thing looks very familiar to something else we have in game. And that other thing is the TBD-1, the Devastator, which sits at 2.0 at Tier 1 in the American tech tree. Now, even though the Devastator only has one 12.7 and also the 7.62 turret, it can carry a slightly... well, actually, is it? That is the question. It can carry torpedoes, of course, and 12 100-pounds, giving it 1,200 pounds. And then it can carry 2 500s and 6 100s, which is 1,600 pounds. So it's kind of just shorter than the 1,000 kilos, but because there's more bombs to it, it means that you can pick and choose your targets a bit better. Now, also the Devastator is faster, or should be faster, than the Ba.65 that is going to be added. So, being at 2.0, I can definitely see the Ba.65 being around 1.7. It may be lower, it may be higher. Another plane to compare it to would be the Wirraway. Now the Wirraway, which is a Australian premium in the British tree, actually sits at Tier 1 at battle rating 1.7. It has around 310 kilometers an hour fully loaded, and it carries just less bomb load than the Ba.65, but it does have 2 Vickers 7.7s looking forward, a turret with a 7.7 Vickers in it, so it has less armament than this thing. So therefore, maybe actually looking at these aircraft, maybe I see it around 2.0 instead of 1.7. But 2.0, 2.3, something like that. With 2 12.7s and 2 7.7s, even though this thing isn't going to be great in the offensive category, it's going to be great as an attacker, which is what it's there for. Unfortunately, attackers in the game do kind of get sidetracked later on in the tech tree, but at these lower levels, they're definitely a lot more important than at higher levels, where attackers kind of just get shunned by the fighters, which can do their job as well as them, and also fight at the end of the day. Another interesting thing about this aircraft is its cockpit. Its cockpit is really interesting. If you look at it, it does once again look very similar to the TBD cockpit, but much more to the SBD-3 Dauntless, which we see at 2.3. But instead of it being slightly more curved, it's much more straight in its angles. So it actually has this really interesting triangular cockpit at the front of it, and I'm really looking forward to looking in this beast, because I'm pretty sure it will have a fully developed cockpit. Just because it's going to be a new plane, there's generally been a massive push towards cockpits, and if it doesn't even have a proper cockpit, it will have a cockpit placeholder, and looking at it, it looks like it's going to be ace. It looks so cool. Something to note though is that looking at where the machine gun on the turret is positioned, it does worry me how much movement this turret is going to have. If you actually look at where it is placed and positioned, the back of the gun is actually very much inside of, or nearly inside of, the place where the gunner is going to sit. So I'm gonna be kind of worried for his life. He's either going to be pushing that machine gun into his stomach and that area, and being able to fire upwards, or there's just not going to be enough space to do that, so there may be quite a limited arc of fire on the turret. But if somebody attacked you from straight behind, which generally a lot of people do at the lower tiers, then I wouldn't be too worried. There's also a little bonus to this little blog here, and that is the fact that we now have our new Italian airman. We are also pleased to present you a new pilot model designed for the Italian tech tree. This fella looks absolutely beautiful. The new models that Gaijin have been slowly adding into the game for crew, whether it be tanks or whether it be pilots, has been absolutely astonishing. If you look at the American ground forces commanders or ground forces men in the tanks, if you look at the Japanese or the British, they look absolutely stunning, and this guy is no exception. The model has been nicknamed Mario, of course it has. It's a me, inspired by a real World War II Italian airman. The grandfather of our historical consultant for the Italian tech tree, Francesco Pergolini. This is what Francesco tells us about his grandfather. His name was Umberto Pergolini. He joined the Regia Aeronautica in the late 30s. He was initially a gunner in the AP-1, and later on in the Breda 65, and trained briefly as a pilot. But when the BA-65 was converted to a monoplane, he switched back to gunner/mechanic on the Caprioni and SM-79. He served with the 159A Squadriglia, I'm guessing, 12 Gruppo, 50 Stormo, based in North Africa. On the 8th of September in 1943, he was a mechanic for the C-205 Veltro units. He returned to Italy from Sardinia, where he was involved in a famous rescue where there were 4 people in a single fighter. He was in the same aircraft where the ace Visconti was piloting the plane while sitting on our hero's legs. After the war, he served until the late 80s as warrant officer in transport units, serving for the United Nations in Africa and the Middle East. So it's always nice to get that personal touch, and this shows it. Well done to Umberto Pergolini. Now your memory will be forever in this game. Isn't that great? Isn't that a nice little thing that Francesco has done for his grandfather? But the model is stunning. Hopefully there's a few variations of him. Generally there is, but that mustache is absolutely killer. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that in game. Something that kind of has to be mentioned about this thing. I talked about the BA-88 the other day. Let's just check so I don't get it wrong. But I believe it was the BA-88. Yes, the BA-88 Linz, which was an aircraft which was supposed to replace the BA-65, but it actually turned out to be worse than it. So it looks like Gaijin are putting this first in the attacker line. Now, it depends if you see the BA-88 as an attacker. I mean, it's Gaijin do, they call it the Italian attacker aircraft. So this means that this is going to be first and the BA-88 is going to be second. So even though in real life the BA-88 was an absolute pile of, well, not some great stuff, the BA-65 will probably not perform as well as it in-game, or at least it's going to be first in the tech tree, so their BRs are going to be very close. But remember, in real life what happened is the BA-65 was created, they created the BA-88, which was supposed to replace the BA-65, and it turned out it was worse than the Ba.65, so the Italian units actually went back to use the Ba.65 instead of the Ba.88. So maybe this thing will perform well, or maybe it just shows how bad the Ba.88 is. But it's nice to see Mario in his flying colours. It's nice to see another aircraft, which isn't a bomber. It would be nice to start seeing some of the fighters. We have seen the G55, but a lot of people are looking forward to stuff like the MC205. I'm sure we'll see them in the coming days. But anyway, I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.